Hi everyone, this is Dr. Seymour. In this narrated PowerPoint, we will discuss word recognition and word study. First, I'm going to go over some key terms that are important for you to know as we go through this PowerPoint. First of all, phonics. Phonics is a method of teaching people to read by correlating sound with letters or groups of letters in an alphabetic writing system. So basically, the teacher's teaching the students letter sounds and then blending them together to form words. Word recognition refers to an instant or automatic recall of words without the use of any strategy, skill, or cognitive mechanism. So if a student has good word recognition, then they're able to look at a text or a passage and just be able to read the words without even thinking and trying to decode the word. Word identification is a process or strategy used to figure out words that you don't automatically recognize. So if a student doesn't have good word recognition, then they would need to be taught word identification skills. And decoding is the ability to correctly decipher and identify a word from a string of letters. So that kind of goes with the phonics. Once you learn the sounds, then you put the sounds together and you make a word, and that's decoding. Then there's phonemic awareness, and this is something children learn at a young age, like preschool, kindergarten. And this is the understanding that spoken words are made up of individual units of sound. And these units of sound are called phonemes. So phonemic awareness also includes the ability to identify and manipulate these individual units of sound. So phonemic awareness is a little bit different because it's not actually reading. It's all based on hearing and sound. So there's no words written on a board or anything that students are learning during phonemic awareness. They're just learning the different sounds in words. And then lastly, morphology describes how words are formed from building blocks called morphemes, which is the smallest unit of meaning in a word. And we're going to talk more about that in just a few minutes. So when students struggle with phonics, it negatively affects their reading comprehension skills, their vocabulary knowledge, their reading fluency. Adolescents with weak phonics skills lack effective strategies for decoding unknown multi-syllable words. Once a student hits 5th grade, they encounter about 10,000 or more new words a year in their grade level and content area text. And most of these words have multi-syllables. So it's not surprising that the inability to decode multi-syllable words negatively influences readers' comprehension. So students who have poor phonics skills have difficulty reading grade level text independently and cannot build their reading vocabularies at the same rate as their peers. So it's important, even as content area teachers, to be able to teach students these word recognition skills and word study strategies. So these students who do struggle with reading and decoding, they need more intensive practice and instructional time to develop their reading skills more thoroughly. Decoding instruction should emphasize syllable patterns and morphology. So you teach them the different syllables and then different morphology patterns as well. And we're going to talk about that more in just a second. The teacher should also integrate phonemic awareness and phonics instruction as a support to the classroom lessons and texts that are assigned. And the way that you would do this with phonemic awareness is practice letting the students hear different words and then focusing on that sound. So like if I said the word sit, you could say, what is the first sound that you hear in the word sit? And the students hopefully would say s. And that's how phonemic awareness works. And then phonics is actually teaching the actual letters with the sounds and then having them form words. And then lastly, instruction should focus on only 1 or 2 skills or strategies at a time. You don't want to overwhelm these students with too many strategies or skills at the same time. There are 5 main ways to teach students to identify words that they don't recognize when they're doing their reading. These strategies include sight words, decoding, context clues, word parts, and morphemic analysis. And these are the strategies that we are going to be talking about and learning more about this week. I will go through and describe each one for you now. So sight words is the most common strategy used to identify words. And this is basically teaching the students to memorize words. And most of the words that we meet are familiar to us, words such as the, girl, house, because, etc., things like that. We immediately pronounce them without the need to analyze letters and sounds, and we refer to these words as sight words. The second strategy is decoding, and this basically is to match sounds to letter patterns and blend these to arrive at a pronunciation. And this is called decoding or word attack. And this strategy works best with short words and often fails with the long multi-syllable type words. Context clues is the third strategy. And basically, it's a way to predict a word's pronunciation from the context of the passage and also to figure out the meaning of the word based on the context of the passage. To use context to recognize some words, the reader needs to identify most of the other words around it accurately. Word parts is another strategy, and it's basically when the students break a word into familiar chunks and match the pronunciation of each chunk to words they already know. And this strategy is often referred to as decoding by analogy, or using known words as analogs to pronounce new words. So you have like a word family, which is made up of words that contain the same phonograms, such as win, tin, fin, and bin, or crop, stop, hop, and mop. Such words are often referred to as onset and rhymes. And the onset is the initial consonant pattern, like bl as in black, and the rhyme is the vowel pattern after that, such as ack as in black. And so if you teach students to break these words down into these different parts, then they might know part of the word so that they can figure out the rest of the word. And morphemic analysis is the fifth strategy, and it describes how words are formed from morphemes. And a morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning in a word. A morpheme may be as short as one letter, such as the letter S. This letter adds plurality to a word such as cats. Likewise, a morpheme can consist of letter combinations that contain meaning. And these units of meaning could be roots, prefixes, and suffixes. And morphemes can be manipulated to modify the word structure in order to change the meaning of the word. So for example, she bakes cookies can be changed to she baked cookies. In this example, the S that signifies the third person singular is changed to ed and is indicative of past tense. So here the meaning of the word changes as well as the meaning of the sentence. When selecting words to teach, teachers should focus on multisyllable, high frequency, specialized and non-specialized academic words, and also on sound patterns that are difficult for struggling readers. Here are some guidelines for instruction as you consider your lesson planning. Take time before lessons to determine the content area words with which students may struggle. So for example, read over the text, the passage, or article that your lesson will be on, and find the words that you know students will struggle with and teach those words before they even start reading. When introducing these words, articulate each syllable slowly. So for example, ecosystem, pausing slightly between the syllables, and then repeat this articulation several times and Also have the students repeat it with you until they learn it. Next, point out patterns in the pronunciation and spelling of prefixes, suffixes, and vowels in certain words. So, for example, racism, sexism, ageism, and so forth. Also point out similarities and differences among words that belong to word families. So, for example, we have define, definitely, definition. Point out those differences and similarities. Next, model using new or difficult words in different contexts. Also provide opportunities for students to practice using new or difficult words, and then reinforce the correct pronunciation and usage. Then also ask open-ended questions that require students to respond using these new and difficult words. So for example, ask the question, do you think racism, sexism, or ageism is more prevalent in our society today? Why? And use those words to help them to hear it more often and to use it in their everyday talking. Scientific research supports the use of direct, explicit, and systematic instruction for teaching phonemic awareness and phonics. Examples of these steps that can be used by teachers are listed on this screen. First, explain, demonstrate, and model the skill or strategy with the content area words and within context of the subject matter that students are currently learning. Also guide students to practice the skill or strategy and provide corrective feedback, or informing the student of their incorrect practice and giving them the correct information. Third, provide time for independent practice or peer collaborative practice of the skill or strategy. And then lastly, repeat these instructional steps until students are able to apply the skills or strategy independently in their reading and writing. And that is it for this narrated PowerPoint on word recognition and word study.